Thanks so much. So when I think about almost anything in my professional life or leadership journey that I could count as an accomplishment or success, I found it's almost always linked to a lesson or skill that I learned through music, particularly in my case through learning how to play a musical instrument. And I know it's not just my personal experience. There are countless studies that demonstrate the benefits of receiving a musical education, especially during formative years such as elementary, middle school, high school, even college. For example, studies like this one show that playing an instrument or singing, it increases math and reading standardized test scores. It fosters cognitive development in ways including memory, attention, and IQ. But I've come to realize that statistics like this actually are really only the tip of the iceberg of at least what I've learned through music. And there's a lot more to be gained beyond these. So this is the last slide like this that you're going to see that has a lot of reading on it. My hope today, though, is that by discussing a little bit of what music has taught me about leadership in life, that others could apply some of the same concepts and pursuits in their lives. So I told you that was the last serious slide. So in all seriousness, though, learning a musical instrument imparts a tangible understanding of the concepts that are key for success in so many pursuits. Determination, dedication. In the case of music, of course, that's through practice. When I was younger and I was assigned to learn all my musical scales, I probably let out a pained groan. But when I sat down and started to fumble through learning, say, an F-sharp major scale, I had to play it a bunch of times each day and then kept doing that a couple of weeks, couple of months. Pretty soon, it almost became second nature, and the groan factor actually began to vanish. Well, no surprise. Turns out that practicing a scale over and over again was also kind of mentally preparing me for the kind of determination and dedication in all sorts of areas that I'd need in life and in leadership. Like preparing for exams as a student, creating in-depth reports for the executive staff at work, or just working up a semi-coherent presentation like this one hopefully is. Though luckily this one did not take me nearly as much time to put together as learning that F-sharp major scale. So that brings me to my next point, what I think is probably the most important thing I've ever learned from music, which is failure. You'll see there, donation failure. Your donation was failure. I was actually trying to donate on a website, and that's what happened when I clicked to donate. I did go back and donate again. It worked, but first I gave the gift of failure. So, of course, I'm not talking about the give-up kind of failure. I'm talking about the kind of productive failure that basically everyone who's ever gotten good at anything has experienced. Productive failure, failing forwards, failing towards your goals. In my professional administrative career, sometimes either myself or my team run into a wall, we don't quite meet our goals. It happens to everyone, never feels good. And I'm sure everyone agrees that when a strong leader does run into hardship, they don't throw their hands up in the air and get frustrated and angry and shout to hell with it. No, of course not. This is a lesson that music taught me early and often. Imagine missing a few obvious notes during a concert, crashing and burning at a big audition. Those are really hard moments to face, I know. But because of that, later in life, when something like that happened, whether it was career or otherwise, I knew how to handle it mentally and emotionally and use it as a tool to get back up and motivate myself towards the next success. What music taught me was that failing, rather than something to fear, was actually something to embrace as an inseparable part of learning to become good at something, and that the people who succeed are the ones that demonstrate they can still get back on their feet after a bad performance or a bad interview and use that to inform their future success rather than take away from it. So the natural extension of this lesson is that learning does not stop once you've gained basic proficiency at something. There's always room to learn more, and even if you ask the best musicians in the world, they're top leaders in any field, do you still have room to learn more, to grow further? Or is that a waste of time because you already basically know everything you need to know? And of course, you know the answer is going to be, of course, the person who has more to learn, because good leaders always do have more to learn. The best people in their industries always do have more to learn. And of course, I'd be remiss not to mention that the mindset of pursuing lifelong learning is also, of course, a core principle where I work at Chautauqua Institution. So by now you might be thinking, these lessons learned are all well and good for someone who wants to be a professional musician or, I don't know, maybe win the Olympics or something. But why spend this much time and effort on a pursuit like music or something similar, even if there are some benefits? Well, that's where this all really began to come together for me. I went to college for music performance, but I don't play music for a living now, so do I regret all the time I spent in the practice room? Not at all. It's the exact opposite. All the time I spent learning and applying those skills like determination, resilience from failure, lifelong improvement, they didn't just go away when I applied them to something other than music. In fact, they became so ingrained in my personhood that I found myself applying them to everything from my biggest lifelong goals to seemingly meaningless yet fulfilling hobbies like professional ping pong. What I learned was that the effort a person applies to intently learning one thing, such as music, is almost always going to translate into many other things in your life, even if you don't know what yet. Along with the above point, one of the final things I want to mention is that music helped me figure out what my own strengths and weaknesses were. So for me, the lesson was I was a performer, and now I'm an administrator. And from performing and working in music, I had a lot of time on stage and backstage as well. And I learned that I was actually at my best behind the scenes. I was at the best being the person who would help put a show together, the logistics person, the person who makes the performance possible for other people. And that was what I ended up being good at and loved doing. And because of all of the skills I learned in music, of course, I'm still applying them in the arts, but I'm applying them as an administrator now in a career that I love, just because I learned all of those skills as a performer. Incidentally, it's also how I learned that I'm a much better presenter when I have notes to help me. So music taught me a lot of life lessons: determination, failure, lifelong learning, and how time spent learning one discipline can transfer so naturally into other parts of a person's aspirations and successes. But finally, music taught me to enjoy and savor a special kind of beauty in life. And now when I play music, I can play it for relaxation. I can play it for self-fulfillment. Or in the case of today, I actually was told that one of the conditions of me speaking was that a piano was going to be present, so I had to play something. Even if piano is not the instrument that I actually went to music school for. But regardless of the reason, I'm happy to wrap up by playing a quick piece that exemplifies all of this for me, and hopefully for some others as well. Thank you.